saying, when the devil ignores you, then you know you're doing something wrong. Conversely, when the devil comes at you, maybe it's because you're trying to do something right.
P. Diddy be wanting the body, and you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did.
A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York. Office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that.
It looks like we're about to witness one of the craziest court cases in recent US history. And it's all thanks to Diddy. The music mogul is in serious trouble, and things are only getting worse. First off, Diddy was denied a $50 million bond, which means he's going to be sitting in jail for the duration of his trial.
Sean Combs is behind bars after a federal judge denied the music producer's request to post a $50 million bail.
And now that the indictment has been unsealed, the charges are out in the open, and they're brutal. ST, racketeering, and transporting individuals to engage in P.
Indictment against Sean Diddy Combs has just been unsealed. Combs is being charged with racketeering, conspiracy.
But it gets darker. Some of the details coming out of the court documents are mind-blowing. Diddy was on a whole different level of wild, and it's shocking to hear some of the things he's being accused of. During raids on his properties, authorities reportedly found over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube, which were allegedly used for these notorious freak-offs.
Cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs. More than 1,000 bottles altogether.
If that wasn't enough, they also found a lot of ammunition.
They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large-capacity drum magazine.
But it's not just the crazy things found during these raids that have people talking. It's the fact that these freak-offs were allegedly arranged by some of Diddy's close circle, including high-ranking supervisors, security, household staff, and assistants.
Combs used others to help conceal his abuse by monitoring and preventing victims from leaving a location in order to hide their injuries, or by locating and contacting a victim who had attempted to flee.
That has people speculating that other big-name celebrities might be caught up in this mess too. We've all seen videos of A-list stars showing up to Diddy's parties.
Posting video of celebrities at Diddy's 50th birthday party. The Kardashians, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kanye, Kevin Hart, every A-lister was there.
And now people are revisiting some old footage of Cat Williams. Cat made waves this year when he talked about how Diddy's parties were anything but ordinary.
Because P. Diddy be wanting the body, and you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did.
Now, another celebrity who might have seen firsthand what Cat was talking about is Denzel Washington. Denzel has attended Diddy's parties in the past, but one time paparazzi caught him leaving a Diddy party and he did not look happy. Actually, he looked almost shaken up.
Looking good, Denzel. Denzel, can I get one look over here?
Now I gotta use the security trick on you guys right now. Trained professional.
People are now wondering if Denzel witnessed something disturbing at one of those parties, something that stuck with him. This speculation has only grown because old clips of Denzel talking about the devil inside Hollywood have started trending again.
There's a saying, when the devil ignores you, then you know you're doing something wrong. Conversely, when the devil comes at you, maybe it's because you're trying to do something right.
Fans are now connecting the dots and thinking that Denzel might have been hinting at people like Diddy when he made those comments. And with all the crazy things coming out now, it's starting to make sense. But let's focus on Diddy's legal troubles for a second. The Southern District of New York is going hard for justice. Prosecutors say that Diddy, using his power, influence, and massive wealth, manipulated and intimidated people into doing his dirty work. This wasn't just about music or business. Diddy allegedly had people getting him drugs, performing S-acts, and even cleaning up after these wild encounters. You might remember that last year, Diddy's ex, Cassandra Ventura, better known as Cassie, filed a massive lawsuit against him. She accused him of years of physical and emotional abuse before she finally broke free. Diddy denied everything, but he settled with Cassie just one day after the lawsuit was filed. That settlement seemed to kick off a chain reaction though, because after that, more lawsuits started coming out of the woodwork, with people accusing Diddy, and even his son, of SAST possession, and violence. In March of this year, Homeland Security agents showed up at Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles with search warrants. They raided both properties and collected what seems to be a mountain of evidence. We didn't know the full scope of what they were looking for at the time, but it was clear that it was connected to a ST investigation out of New York. Fast forward to this week, and now Diddy is officially in custody. He was arrested Monday night at the Park Hyatt Hotel in Manhattan. According to his legal team, he'd been staying at the hotel since September 5th, supposedly because he knew charges were coming and wanted to be cooperative. He's been telling everyone that his cooperation shows he's not a flight risk. But when U.S. Attorney Damian Williams was asked about Diddy's supposed cooperation, he didn't seem so sure.
The word cooperative or cooperating has taken on tremendous elasticity, and it no longer really bears any relation to what the word means when we use it. Responding to lawful process and the like does not qualify as cooperation when we use that term here.
There are still a lot of questions up in the air, like whether more people will be charged or if Diddy will face additional charges himself. But what we do know now is the prosecution has laid out its case in a major indictment. Diddy is facing 3 serious charges: racketeering conspiracy, trafficking by force, fraud or coercion, and transporting individuals for P.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, interstate transportation for.
On Tuesday, Diddy entered a not guilty plea to all of the charges, but if he's convicted on all counts, he's looking at a minimum of 15 years in prison. And at 54 years old, Diddy could potentially be looking at spending the rest of his life behind bars. Now let's dive into the indictment. It's a whopping 14 pages packed with some pretty shocking details. Right from the jump, the government hits hard with accusations against Diddy, who's also known by a bunch of other names like Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, PD, and Love. Throughout the document, they make sure to call him by all his monikers, just to hammer home the point that this is the same guy. The indictment starts with a damning statement saying, "For decades, Sean Combs abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his desires, protect his reputation, and cover up his actions. And to do this, the government claims Diddy used the resources and influence of his entire business empire."
Between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
They paint a picture of Diddy running a full-on criminal enterprise. We're not just talking about minor stuff either. This indictment accuses him of everything from ST and forced labor to arson, bribery, and even obstruction of justice.
The empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including forced labor, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice.
To break things down even further, there was a press conference led by U.S. Attorney Damian Williams. At the presser, the prosecutors gave more insight into the laundry list of accusations against Diddy. They claim that Diddy used force and coercion to get victims to participate in what he called freak-offs, basically extended S performances that involved male commercial S workers. According to the allegations, these events weren't just one-off situations. They involved multiple workers and were fueled by drugs like ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB to keep victims compliant.
Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended performances with male commercial workers or cause to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the performances, which he called freak-offs. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB.
But that's just the beginning. The indictment goes into more disturbing details, like how Diddy reportedly subjected his victims to physical abuse. One particularly alarming incident from March 2016 was even caught on video, showing him kicking and dragging one of his victims, who, as we all know, was his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. The video shows Diddy grabbing, shoving, dragging, and kicking Cassie in a hotel hallway. It's a tough watch. Cassie can be seen leaving a hotel room and walking toward the elevators, and that's when Diddy, who's just wearing a towel around his waist, runs after her down the hall. He grabs her by the back of her neck and throws her to the floor. And then, while still holding his towel with one hand, he kicks her as she's lying on the ground.
To corroborate some of the allegations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The video, captured on multiple cameras, shows Combs his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura.
The footage doesn't stop there. Diddy grabs a purse and suitcase that were near the elevators and then turns around and kicks her again while she's still motionless on the floor. There's about 4 seconds between the two kicks, which really emphasizes how deliberate the act was. After that, he briefly drags Cassie by her sweatshirt toward a room before walking away.
A lawsuit filed by Ventura in November last year and settled the next day referenced actions that seem to match those seen in this video.
Cassie, who's obviously hurt, slowly gets up, gathers her things from the floor, and moves toward a phone on the hallway wall near the elevators. But it's not over yet. Diddy, still in nothing but a towel and socks, returns to the scene. You can see in the mirror directly across from the camera that he appears to shove her. Then he sits down on a chair, grabs something off a table, and forcefully throws it at her before walking away again.
Combs seems to walk back to the hotel room, then returns and appears to shove her in a corner. Moments later, he can be seen throwing an object in her direction.
Just as he's turning back toward Cassie one last time, someone steps off the elevator, and that's when the video cuts off. What's wild is that this whole altercation actually lines up with the allegations Cassie made in the federal lawsuit she filed in November, which has since been settled. In her complaint, she detailed how Diddy became extremely intoxicated one night in March 2016 and punched her in the face, giving her a black eye. After he fell asleep, she tried to sneak out of the hotel room, but Diddy woke up and followed her into the hallway, yelling at her. He reportedly grabbed at her and started throwing glass vases which shattered around them as she ran to the elevator trying to escape. Once she got in the elevator, she left the hotel and took a cab back to her apartment. But according to the complaint, Cassie later realized that running away was only going to make Diddy even angrier. So, stuck in what she described as a vicious cycle of abuse, she made the decision to go back to the hotel to apologize for leaving. When she got back, the hotel security staff urged her to just get back into the cab and head home, hinting that they'd seen the security footage of Diddy beating her and throwing glass at her in the hallway. The complaint alleges Combs paid the Intercontinental Century City $50,000 for the hallway security footage. But back to the indictment, Diddy didn't just rely on physical threats, he also used other methods to keep his victims in line. For instance, the indictment mentions that he would hold sensitive recordings of the freak-offs over their heads. These recordings, combined with financial manipulation and promises of housing, were used as leverage to control the victims.
The embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims.
One of the most messed up parts is that Diddy wasn't acting alone. The indictment says he had a whole crew of people, his employees and associates, helping him pull this off. These people weren't just standing by. They were actively booking hotel rooms for these freaky parties, cleaning up after the events, and even delivering cash to pay for commercial services. Basically, it was a well-oiled machine, with Diddy at the top calling the shots and his employees doing the dirty work.
As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way.
In March 2023, things started to catch up with Diddy. Law enforcement raided his homes in Miami and Los Angeles with search warrants in hand. When they hit his properties, they found a ton of evidence linking him to the crimes mentioned in the indictment. They seized firearms, ammo, and electronic devices that are said to contain key evidence. But one of the biggest finds was over 1,000 bottles of personal lubricant. Yep, 1,000 bottles, along with other items that were allegedly used during these so-called freak-offs. That just shows how huge this whole operation was and how deeply Diddy was involved.
Seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims.
The prosecutor plans to push for pretrial detention, backing it up with formal letters that were submitted during the proceedings. He made it clear that they aren't linking Jeffrey Epstein's S with any possible risks Diddy or other defendants might face while awaiting trial, leaving the decision up to the judge. This whole situation is wild, but as the case against Sean Diddy Combs moves closer to a criminal trial, there's no doubt more details and developments will come to light.